You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year for all your Mets here. Let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home
exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
What does it feel like to be a New York Met these days, especially at Citi Field?
It's an absolute blast.
New York Mets is the only team I know. I'm super happy to be playing for these fans. New York is my home.
I love this team last year. Can't wait to start another season.
This organization took a gigantic step forward last year, wanting to be part of this vision moving forward.
A grand slam!
Grannies are sick.
Lindor homers from both sides of the plate. She is gone! Do you believe this? McNeil's got his magic wand back. Max Scherzer picks up his 200th victory. Unbelievable! This team, he struck him out, and the ball game is over as the Mets no-hit the Phillies.
We're chanting that man's name.
Montana with his arms raised over his head. It's the month of Escobar. The 10th of the year for Brandon Nimmo.
Batting champ Jeff McNeil.
What an inning by the Mets.
And the Mets walk it off. Absolutely unbelievable.
This is as crazy a ninth inning as we've seen in forever.
What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets at Rob, and welcome to the 2023 baseball season. Pitchers and catchers report to spring training. Today, the Mets have reported to spring training. We are ready to go. Get excited. Get ready. 2023, our Mets here right now. Let's go, baby. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been ready to finally get it going after all the offseason news, after all the back and forth, all the signings, all the potential signings, trades, every single thing that we've been waiting for during the cold winter months of the offseason. We finally got some sunshine, some palm trees in Florida, ready for spring training. We got a couple of days until position players report fully, but most of the Mets are already down there. We have a lot of good news to talk about. We have a little bit to go on. We have a lot of things that we need to talk about regarding what we have to look forward to when it comes to the Mets rotation. Everything that we need to talk about is going to happen in this spring training preview 2023. So make sure you hit on that like button. If you're new to the channel, say what is up. Do not be shy, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Talking Mets at Rob. New season, same channel, ready to go bigger and better. We are going to crack 5,000 subscribers this season. I can guarantee you that. And we'll probably get to 6,000. Who knows? Maybe even 7,000 if everything works out the way it's planned. So I'm glad you guys are here for the ride. And let's hope the Mets show some balls, show some guts. I want to see a championship this year, and I'm ready for it. There's a lot of questions from every team that you can look at. You can look at one team and question that team. You can look at the Mets and question them. Every single place you go to, any team, there's question marks. It just has to be the right time and the right place. You see it year after year. Or you got to be in the right moment, the right time, the right place. You got to be hot at the right time. Any team can do it, and there's no reason why the biggest payroll in baseball should be ready to go in 2023. Let's be honest, guys. It's World Series or bust at this point now. We're in year 3 of the Steve Cohen called wants to win a championship within a 3 to 5 year window. That's what we have to do, and it's World Series or bust. There is no be happy with the playoffs. Oh, we won 92 games. Let's go home and be proud about that. No, there is expectations for this New York Mets team for 2023. You heard Pete Alonso in his first interview at spring training talk about that. There is expectations for this team. The expectations from at the top of the ownership with Steve Cohen trickled all the way down to the players, to the coaches, to the training staff, and of course the fans. Expectations are higher, and when players believe that ownership has their back, it all comes together, and the fans got to stick with them too. Last year, it was rough. We're not going to lie about that. It took 157 games for us to realize that the shoe can still fall off on the other foot, and everything can go downhill. But at the end of the day, it's a new year. It doesn't matter what happened last year. You're going to hear over and over and over again from non-Mets fans, oh, look, the Mets choked last year. Oh, history's going to repeat itself. History means absolutely nothing. All right? It really doesn't. Because if that's the case, the Atlanta Braves should have won the World Series again last year. And guess what? They played one more game in the postseason than our beloved New York Mets. So, what is on the agenda going forward for the channel? Before we get more into the spring training news, we're going to talk about Zach Britton, who the Mets are interested now. We got a little more clarification on that. We got Joey Lucchesi talking about him. We're going to talk about Verlander and Scherzer. We're going to talk about Pete Alonso talking as well. We see Steve Gelbs on SNY right now at Port St. Lucie at Clover Park right now, where I'll be in a week from now. Thank God. Get the hell out of New York for a little bit. But I'm telling you guys right now, I feel good about this team. I was more nervous and concerned about last year's team than I am about this year's team. I just feel like they know they disappointed last year. And I feel like they got a chip on their shoulder. You know what this reminds me of? Even though it's a little bit different because teams went a little further into the playoffs, this reminds me of the Kansas City Royals in 2014 going into the 2015 season. Because of the fact that it just feels that way. Like the Mets should have done better last year. And I feel like that everybody has a chip on their shoulder. I think everybody just from last year, even if they weren't on the team, it just feels like there's something about this team. The confidence, the aura, everything just feels like this is the right time. And I know you can talk to any other fan and they feel the same way. But look, you guys know me very well at this point. I am not one to overhype a baseball team. I don't overhype my own team, and I sure as hell don't overhype the competition. And in my opinion, I just feel something about this team that they're going to have a chip on their shoulder the entire year. And I do feel that things have to break right. Yes, of course. But you could say that about every team. Health is the major issue, especially when you got two of the oldest pitchers in baseball at the top of your rotation. But you know what? You already see it around the league. You see with the Yankees already. You know, these guys are much younger than Scherzer and Verlander, and they're getting hurt prior to the season. Spring training didn't even officially start yet, and guys are falling apart already. So, is it really possible for the Mets to win the World Series? Yes. Is health the major factor? Absolutely. But if you bring health into it, and Joe, I just saw about Twitter, give me 1 second. Health is the major issue. We all know that. But like I've been saying many, many times over the last couple of streams or so, if Scherzer and Verlander give you between 25 and 28 starts, and yes, they'll be missing a few starts, maybe 4 or 5 starts, but they make between 25 and 28 starts, I have a pretty good feeling that the Mets can win well over 90 games. And I'm probably around the 95 to 97 range. I don't think anybody in the NL East is going to win 100 games. I think these teams are very good. You know, the 13 games they play against each other, I wouldn't be shocked if most of them are 500 records. You know, obviously it's going to be, 7 wins to 6 wins, 6 wins to 7 wins, whatever. I feel like everybody is going to be down the middle when they play each other. I don't think it's going to be somebody overtopping everybody by a wide margin. I just feel it's that close. But the thing that I worried about so much last year was we continue to talk about the power bat, right? We're gonna get into the lineup. We're gonna get into everything. Joe's talking about Twitter, so I'm just gonna look at it really quickly. If you guys give me 1 second. Alrighty. So MLB Network, JP Morosi, Joe, thank you for sending it to me. On MLB Network said that the Mets have had contract discussions with Pete Alonso. So that's a good thing that we're hearing. And it seemed like it was pretty obvious that when they asked Pete Alonso about that contract talks, he didn't really want to talk about it. But JP Morosi said at MLB Network there has been conversations with the Mets and Pete Alonso. Again, we don't know how far those conversations are. It could just be, it's nice that they're speaking prior to the kickoff of spring training. But at the, it's a good thing to see that because they are talking, they are negotiating. That's important. You don't want to frustrate. And listen, Pete Alonso's not going to talk during the season with the contract. So you got to get it done in spring training, or you got to wait until next offseason. And I think it's going to make Met fans very nervous if this extension doesn't get done with Pete Alonso, because he's only a year away after that from free agency, and a lot of players might want to just go after free agency, even though Pete Alonso continues to say he wants to be here. But the same thing with Aaron Judge, and I think is very similar to Pete Alonso, where Pete Alonso wants to be a Met, but that doesn't mean he don't want to get wined and dined by other teams as well. The same reason why Judge became a free agent, didn't sign the contract with the Yankees. And at the end, he came back for less money. I think it could be similar if Pete Alonso decides not to sign a contract and wants to get wine and dine. But it's good news that the Mets and Pete Alonso are talking extension. That's the good news. I see people talking about DeGrom. Oh, yeah, DeGrom, first day of spring, pitchers and catchers, he felt a little tightness in his side, and they're going to shut him down for a couple of days. And, the Rangers poo-pooed that. Listen, the comment from the Rangers, Chris Young, is exactly what we've been hearing about the Mets and DeGrom for the last couple of years, right? Oh, it's only tightness. It's only that. We're going to give him a couple of days, and then the tightness turns into something else. Wouldn't be shocked if that happens. Once again, I'm not trying to, I would never laugh at DeGrom with the injury or anything like that, because the last thing you want to do is jinx your own team because, oh, look, DeGrom got hurt. Ha, ha, ha. And then tomorrow we find out Scherzer pulled a hamstring, right? We don't want to hear any of that. Again, DeGrom is not on our radar at all until we face him a couple of months from now. That's the only time I care about Jacob DeGrom. It doesn't matter to me. Jacob DeGrom could pitch 5 no-hitters in a row, pitch a perfect game, and it's irrelevant because it does not affect the Mets at all. And it's unfortunate for him, but just look what Chris Young said of the Texas Rangers. Oh, it's a couple of days. It's not too much of a big deal. If it was a regular season, he would push it. If it was the playoffs, he would push it. Well, that's exactly what the Mets front office was saying with everything with Jacob DeGrom over the last couple of years. So it's a broken record with what we've seen from Jacob DeGrom over and over again. And listen, I know some people on Twitter were like, oh, look at that, look, same old Jake and all that other stuff. Listen, that doesn't mean he's not going to start the season and dominate. We'll see what happens. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But too many people are worried about him when we should be worrying about our division and our team. That's the most important thing. Well, Brian, listen, at the end of the day, he could throw 300 innings, have 20 wins, which is nearly impossible nowadays. But, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because of the fact that, and then Chris Young used the excuse, oh, it was cold. It's 65 degrees in Arizona. Let's not act like it was 30 degrees and they were throwing the ball around. Let's be honest. So, again, it's a recurring problem with Jacob DeGrom. It always seems something pops up, and just because he's on the Texas Rangers doesn't mean he's just going to be healthy and, he's going to pitch for the Texas Rangers with no problems at all. So, could this be minor? Yeah, it could just be a little tightness, coming off off season, finally throwing a ball at a decent speed. You get a little tightness here and there, not enough stretching, whatever. Tom, how you doing, buddy? Hey, President, what's up, buddy? So at the end of the day, guys, it's irrelevant to talk about Jacob DeGrom at this moment because we're not facing him. He's in the American League West, which is irrelevant to the NL East until you face him. That's it. Or face his team. That's the only time we should be talking about him because the Mets have the Phillies and Braves to worry about. They got to worry about winning the division, and they got to worry about their own team. We could talk about the lineup. We could talk about the bullpen. We could talk about the rotation. So before we get more into details and everything like that, for the Spring Training 2023 edition right here on Talker Mets with Rob, let's say what up to everybody. We got Ken, of course. We have Brian C. We have Home Slice. We got Grant, member of Talking Mets with Rob. We got Sean, a member. We got who else we got here? We have Mike Lowe. How you doing? Let's see. We got Tanya. We got Joe. We got Christian, a member. We got KTU. We have I know we saw a couple more people here. Hold on. Victor, there we go. And we got Timothy, we got Tom, we got President, we got Edgardo. There we go, guys. There we go. All right, let's see. I think it was Brian. Was it Brian that typed something Rob, fill in the blank. It's a successful New York season if they win the World Series. All right. I need the expectations to be raised from all of us. Being down, having lower expectations is a loser mentality. Let's have the mentality of our owner. He expects big things. He expects World Series. We're in year 3 to 5 years, win a World Series. That was Steve Cohen's exact words. We're start of year 3. It's time to raise expectations. It's a successful New York Mets season if they blank. You can write it in the chat what you believe. I say World Series. I know some people will be like, you're crazy. NLCS, either win or loss. No, because if we're in the NLCS and we lose, it's going to be devastating. If we make it to the World Series, oh, goody, we made the World Series, but we lose. Devastating. Let's have higher expectations. It's about time we get completely rid of the low expectations from the Bullpen era and bring in the higher expectations from Steve Cohen himself. That's the most important thing, and Met fans got to stop. And you guys know me. I am not the one to push up a team or bring very much high expectations. But sooner or later, and I've tried to change it up and say, nah, I can't do this. It doesn't feel right because we're not used to it. And I don't think it's fair to have the lower expectations when you hear the owner come out and say there's higher expectations. You hear players come out and talk about higher expectations. We have to have that same mentality. Until we do, it's just going to be constant complaining. And there shouldn't be complaining right now. This same lineup scored 4.75 runs per game last year. If you really want to talk about it, it was our starting pitching that failed us at the end. Yeah, you can talk about the offense struggling in the month of September, but you can always go back to the month of May when our bullpen was struggling and couldn't win games for us. You can look at every month where we could have picked up 1 or 2 games and the division would have been ours and we wouldn't have to worry about the Braves series at the end of the season. It goes so many different ways, but have the higher expectations. It's okay. We're allowed to have high expectations. Let's see. Hit the John. How you doing? Phillies coming back mad? I don't see why. I mean, you got hot at the right time, just like many other teams. You didn't finish the deal. I think the Phillies are a good team, but I think they have this very similar flaws that has been haunting them for the last couple of seasons. You're not going to have Harper for a couple of months, and that is going to hurt you. Trey Turner is obviously going to help you, but there is no way that we can just give the nod to the Phillies when they went on a run last year, but that doesn't stop them from being the team they were the entire season. I don't like the rotation as much as Philly fans like the rotation. I'm going to tell you again and again about Taijuan Walker. Taijuan Walker is a very good pitcher, but he is made for a bigger ballpark. I was talking to Jonathan, who's a big Phillies fan. He's a scout for a Major League Baseball team. I talk to him all the time, big Phillies fan. And we just have a conversation right before I went live not too long ago. When it comes to Taijuan Walker, he's a very good pitcher. He's prone to giving up the long ball. He had an under 3.5 ERA last year with the Mets. He gives up a lot of long fly balls when he's not getting ground balls. And even when he is pitching well, he tends to give up the long ball. He gives up a lot of long fly balls that end up at the warning track that are catched at bigger ballparks. But when you're in a bandbox in Philly at Citizens, those balls are going over the wall. I told Jonathan this. Don't be shocked if Taijuan Walker has a 4 ERA. Very, very low 4 ERA. But the Phillies need more than that. And I think that he's going to have gems. Taijuan Walker he will have gems. But Taijuan Walker is a pitcher that I believe that has to be in a bigger ballpark. That's just me. You don't have to agree. That's okay. I'm not a big fan of Aaron Nola. I think Aaron Nola never shows up in the big spot. I think if you didn't have Zach Wheeler, you would be very much in trouble. Zach Wheeler is your ace. Nola is not an ace. All right? You have to have consistency to be an ace. Nola doesn't have consistency. Zach Wheeler, he finally has. Suarez, I like Suarez. He's a bulldog. Good pitcher. Not great. So the rotation, I still think, has a lot of question marks. And listen, the Mets do too. I'm not even going to listen. I talk about the Mets rotation a lot. But I do believe that the Phillies, when it comes to their lineup, is powerful, is scary. But that scary lineup also has a ton of strikeouts. The one thing that I think Turner is going to bring to the lineup a lot was the fact that the Phillies, they hit a lot of home runs, but they also hit a lot of solo home runs. They had a lot of guys that could not get on base for the big boppers because there is a lot of strikeouts in that lineup. Turner, even though he strikes out a lot, he does get on base. Gonna help that for sure. But I do wonder if the strikeout, listen, when you don't have Harper, what is it, about 2 months you're not going to have Harper? It's going to be very interesting to look at it. And listen, if the Braves and the Phillies start off slow once again, and the Mets don't start off the same way they did last year, which I kind of doubt, because the Mets do have a tough schedule in the first month of April. And let's be honest, the Phillies and the Braves don't have easy schedules either in the month of April, but it is very interesting to look at. The point is, this is going to be probably a division that goes down to the wire because every one of these teams have flaws. You can put your bias in there and say you don't, but let's be honest, we all have a flaw or two, or maybe even three, right? And that's keeping health. If everybody's healthy, every team still has flaws. It's just a matter of right place, right time, how you play against your division, because that's going to be, I wouldn't be shocked if tiebreakers come into an issue because I don't think anybody in the NL East is going to win 100 games this year. That's just me. I think, I don't think you should be concerned if you don't win 100 games because I think either one of these three teams can win between 95 and 98 games. That's just me. All right. Let's see. Just checking the comments, guys. Give me 1 second. I see a lot of people. I see Alan put Phillies third place. You know what though? Like, I can find many possibilities where each one of the three teams in the NL East could be a third place team. It's very, and that doesn't mean that you're going to have 85 wins, right? You could be a third place team with 95 wins. That'll get you into the playoffs. But it's very interesting to think about because I don't remember the last time the Braves, the Phillies, and the Mets were all serious contenders for the division and the World Series. Like, you can really say that this is the best division in baseball, and it's not even close. And that's how good these three teams are. And this is putting health aside because injuries can derail everything, no matter how good you are. If everybody's healthy, anybody can win this division. Anybody can end up in third place. That's why this is very interesting. Yeah, John, I agree with you. But again, your rotation, I don't like. Like, let's be honest. Like, I don't like your rotation. I don't like Nola. I never liked Nola. If you followed my channel for a while, Nola is way too inconsistent. And I fought with Philly fans for a full year and a half, saying that Nola is not an ace. He's too inconsistent. And I think that's the reason why Wheeler took that spot over, because of the fact that Nola is not consistent enough. And in big games, he falls apart. Again, Taijuan Walker, I like Taijuan Walker, but he needs to be in a bigger ballpark. You guys will see it. He's going to throw a gem every now and then, but even when he's throwing a gem, he's prone to the long ball. And, when you have a little under a 3.5 ERA with the Mets in a bigger ballpark, that's going to jump to close to a 4, if not a little bit above 4 ERA in a smaller ballpark like Citizens Bank. Like, I don't care how good you are as a pitcher. Citizens Bank is going to raise your GPA, ERA. Well, yeah, Brian, I just saw the Pacoda stand-ins. Listen, I saw it with the Mets. I saw the Pacoda stand-ins. I'm sorry. Like, look, would I love for that to happen? But they have the Mets at like 97.2. They have the Braves and the Phillies like well under that. That makes no sense to me. Like, I think the Braves are like 91 and the Phillies were like 87 or something like that. Come on. Like, no way. Like, I'm sorry. Like, as much as I hate the Phillies and the Braves, you guys know me. I'm trying to be as fair as possible. Like, yeah, I throw my bias in every now and then, but I try to be as fair as possible. I kill my team as much as I kill any other team. And I usually try to say, if it's, how it is. That's the way it is. And yeah, the Pacoda stand-ins are a joke. I'm sorry. There is no way Pacoda stand-ins percentage-wise is like 97.2. The Braves are like 91 or something like that. And the Braves were like, the Phillies were like under 90. Like, it was like 87 or 80. That's crazy to me. That is just crazy to me. Oh, yeah, John. Exactly. The pick-up move is going to be a big deal because the one thing Taijuan Walker, and that's why he was so good and why he kept his ERA down, because he picked off a ton of guys. And, when you got that rule now, you can't throw over more than 3 times. If you don't pick them off by the 3rd time, it's a ball. I have to go through the exact rules, but, because that's going to be very interesting. But that takes a big part of Taijuan Walker's game almost out of it. And that sucks because that's one of his best things that he does on the mound. But we'll see how it works out. He's good enough to pick guys off, less than 3 pickoffs. But, is he going to take that risk if he didn't pick him off the first 2 times, So that's something that's going to affect him for sure. I wouldn't call Taijuan Walker an innings eater, to be honest with you. Well, John, I agree with you. Nola is, tale of 2 seasons, yeah, but that's not an ace. Like, I'm sorry, inconsistency is not an ace, and I'm sorry. You can trust Nola if you want, but every time I've seen this guy in a big game, he does not do the job. And you should thank your lucky stars you signed Wheeler, because then this team wouldn't even be a playoff team. John, that's something too. Yeah, Turner definitely brought the stolen bases for sure, and defense, absolutely. Sorry, guys. My comments went a little crazy here. Okay, there we go. Where the hell was I? Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm just going through the comments really quick. Yeah, I see everybody's excited for sure. And don't worry, guys. Right before the season starts, I'm gonna do right before I fly to Miami for opening day. A few days before, I'm gonna do my season predictions, division winners, records, all that stuff, and I'm gonna take it all the way through the playoffs into the World Series. And last year, I don't even know if I picked the Mets last year. I don't think I did because I try to not I think I got the Mets until the divisional series, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, but I can't wait to do the prediction because honestly, I have no idea who I'm gonna win this NL East division. Like I'm not just gonna pick the Mets because I'm a Mets fan because I don't like to do that. Like it literally can be any one of those three teams. Like no matter which way I go, people are gonna hate me for it. So it is what it is. But listen, if I pick the Mets, it's probably for a good reason. But I can assure you, if it's the Phillies or the Braves that I pick, it's probably going to be for a good reason. It's going to be very interesting to break down the Mets, Phillies, and Braves for the division because I have no idea at this point, and it's the start of spring training. The guy who will make the Pagoda stand has a yeah. The Pagoda stand is I don't understand that. I'm sorry. On the third pickoff try. Oh yeah, Walker had a lot of shutouts for sure, but again, like I said, he'll throw you gems. But even with those gems, he had an under 3.5 ERA, which is pretty good for as a fourth starter for the Mets. But again, if you watch the games closely, the amount of balls that were hit to deep left, deep right, deep center, warning track power, those balls are going out of Citizens Bank. It's a huge difference. That's a swing of a full run of ERA easily. All right. Oh, no, John, I didn't say you said ace. A lot of your Philly fans said ace. I had fights with those guys for months. They didn't want to believe it. Nola's not an ace. He's not, but he was your ace. Wheeler took it over. Yeah, after the third pickoff, it's a balk now. So, yeah. I see you, Ken. I see you. Ken, I'm already going to that game. Which game? I'm confused now. I'm going to a lot of games in Florida. Are you talking about Port St. Lucie or Miami? Because I'll be there too. All right, guys. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments. Let me just catch up. All right. Okay, Q, I like that comment. How long do you think before the Mets give up on Darren Ruff and Daniel Vogelback? The switch off, yeah. I think they're gonna give a very short leaf to Darren Ruff. Vogelback, I think he's on this team for the long run. I don't think he's going anywhere, no matter if he struggles or not. I think the Mets really like Vogelback. Darren Ruff is the wild card. If he doesn't perform well at spring training, I think the Mets are going to give him like a couple of weeks, just like they gave Robinson Cano 2 or 3 weeks, and then cut him. That's what they're going to do with Darren Ruff. I still think they believe that it can't be worse than last year. I mean, he was literally nothing last year. If it wasn't a strikeout, it was either a ground ball or a pop-up. That was basically it. He did nothing. The one game I saw him do something was against the Braves, and that was when we got our ass kicked at Citi Field. And he hit a line drive to down the right field line that Acuna missed. And that was the only time I ever seen him did anything productive. That was when the Mets were trying to come back when I think it was, and that was a Taijuan Walker game, by the way, where Taijuan Walker basically, I think he gave like 7 runs in 2 innings. Like the Mets were just garbage in that game. But they tried to come back, but they ultimately lost. I know because it was a Friday, and I remember I was with a few people that I haven't seen in a while, so that's how I remember that game. That was the only time he was productive. And I think that was July, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. It was in the dog days of summer for sure. Maybe late July, early August, maybe. But that's something that is very interesting to look at for sure. But Darren Ruff, I think he's on a very short leash. Vogelback, I think he's here for the long run. I think the Mets really like him. All right. Brian says, what do you expect from Senga? Good numbers overseas, but here in MLB, I don't know. I don't know. I think he's one of the big question marks. I don't want to like destroy Taijuan Walker, but I mean, he was very good for the Mets. But I told you my reasons why he was good. Senga is replacing Bassett as the number 3 starter, right? And we'll get into the rotation because what Buck said, I think it was either today or yesterday, about the rotation, and some people might not like it. With Kodai Senga, I don't know. He's never pitched 140 more than 140 innings in his career in Japan, right? So I'm assuming the Mets are going to try to keep it at that or a little bit above, like around 150. So I do think that Senga is a big wild card. I don't know. Like, I could see him being dominant and I wouldn't be shocked. I could see him be very bad early on and I wouldn't be shocked. Because you don't know what to expect. Just as much as the hitters got to adjust to his, the ghost forkball and all his other pitches, he has to adjust to the hitters, right? We see this all the time with pitches that come from Japan, right? They have a hard time adjusting. And if the hitters start adjusting to his pitches, the problem that Japanese pitchers have is that if they don't adjust when the hitters adjust to their pitchers, they're not going to be very successful. Now, we've heard, I don't listen to what the Mets brass says about Senga. Of course they're going to say good things about him. But what you heard other executives from other teams saying how much they like Senga and they think he's going to be good. Again, that's no proof. But when you hear other organizations talk about Senga very highly, you kind of feel a little bit better about it, but you have to wait and see, right? And I'm very curious to see what he's going to do, because if he can be the guy, like, I don't need Senga to be an ace. I don't. Give me what Bassett gave the Mets last year, and I'm fine with that, to be honest with you. But I'm very curious to see. Marilyn, how you doing, on? Yeah, baseball definitely can't come any sooner. Well, Alan, that's a good point about the Braves, actually. We talk about the Phillies, but about the Braves, yeah, you're right. The depth is very, very thin. Very thin. And, you've seen that last year, right? When Albies went down, they had a problem filling that. Even though, Grissom played decently, you're not replacing Albies. And you're right about the depth for the Braves. But again, when you make all those trades, when you finally bring up all your young guys, what do you have left? So yeah, their depth is very interesting. But they're still a scary team. But if one or two things goes wrong with them injury-wise, they're in trouble. And sooner or later, the Mets or the Phillies are going to take over that mantle. Like, and the Braves do what the Braves do. It seems like every decade or so. They win a ton of divisions. They find a way to win one World Series, and then they go about their business again, right? They win tons of divisions, titles, and they'll win one World Series in the 10 years that they dominate the division and win one World Series. Listen, I take that every step of the way as a Mets fan. But, for a team that wins division after division after division, what are they, they can win, what do they win, like 7 out of 10 or something like that? Like, and to have one World Series out of that, it's great that you win a World Series, but it should be better, right? The 90s Braves should have won more World Series, but they didn't. As good as they were, the pitching staff they had, the bullpen they had, the lineup they had, it's very odd. And you're right, Alan, about the depth of the Braves. I didn't really go into detail with their roster yet. I'll do that when I think about going over my stand-ins and my preseason predictions. But yeah, you're right. Come to think about it, yeah. President, that's where I'm going, between 95 and 97. Brian, if you don't mind, the question that you asked me about the Mets' successful season is, and leaving a blank, I'm going to use that to put on a poll on my community page after this stream. So, because I really want to get people's ideas and opinions about what they believe is a successful season for the Mets. So I will be taking that from you. I just have to find it again so I can look what it said. I don't remember where it was, but we'll find it. If you can type it again, Brian, exactly what you said, I will definitely put that on my community page. Yeah, the AL is still garbage, Ken. 100%. Theo, what's up? No, President, you know what? But I guarantee you, President, last year, you didn't expect the Mets to win 100 games either, right? If somebody would have told me prior to the 2022 season the Mets were going to win 100 games or 101 games, I would have probably laughed in your face and probably smacked you at the same time, because that's how foolish I thought you sound. But they did. How? I have no idea. They didn't have a powerful lineup, but they were productive, and which is weird. Go ahead, John. Go ahead. Of course you're going to say that. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. All right, I'm just looking at the comments. Ken, that's a good point. That lately, I guess I could say over the last 10 years or so, 12 years or so, yeah, Japanese pitchers have been more successful than the hitters. That's true. Oh, Cocaine Bear. That just is a stupid movie. I didn't see it, but I saw the trailer and I'm like, yeah. Okay, Brian. Thank you. I've seen it. Good. That's what I wanted to see. All right. I gotta take a picture of that because I'll forget. I gotta go to work right after this. So, all right, perfect. Sorry about the flash, guys. I just wanted to get that. Okay, perfect. All right. So let's keep on going. So I wanted to bring up about Zach Britton. Sorry, I got my notes here. There was 6 teams, the Mets were included, watching a bullpen workout for Zach Britton. The Mets are interested in Zach Britton, which I'm not surprised that they are. I always wanted Chafin, but he went to Arizona, and that's out of the question. So, the runner-up, Zach Britton. I don't know what we're going to get from Zach Britton. With the injury last year with the Yankees, barely pitched. He came back at the end of the year, looked okay, but injury concerns and age is a problem with Zach Britton. But exactly, Graham, I was just about to say that. What I read is that he had a very good bullpen. Again, he's looking for a contract, so whatever he might have been feeling pain-wise or discomfort, he ain't going to show. And he could be healthy. Who the hell knows? But I do think that the Mets are going to be players for Zach Britton, like big-time players. I think they're going to go hard after Zach Britton because he's going to come on a cheap contract. It's going to be a 1-year deal. And if the Mets get another lefty in their bullpen, they are scary. Even though I don't know about Zach Britton's health. If he's healthy, he's one of the better relievers in the game. Lefties, for sure. Greenville is a nice baseball town. Come visit. Where's Greenville? Greenville where? PA? I love about the Mets sign. Adam Ottavino was a no-brainer. I know Ken really likes him. I was hesitant, but you can't deny that Ottavino was one of our best relievers all year. So, meet the Mets, a member of Talking Mets with Rob. How you doing, buddy? Thank you. It's Adam Ottavino's he has his weird moments, but he was dominant for the Mets last year. I trusted him just as much as I trusted Diaz the majority of the year. That's what it came to be with Ottavino. And like I said, the difference with the Mets, and nobody likes to bring this up, like I know Philly fans and Brave fans are probably not going to focus on the Mets as much, but listen up really quickly. The New York Mets bullpen, for the first couple of months of the year, their bullpen was in shambles. They were in trouble. If it wasn't Diaz, because Ottavino didn't really get his footing yet, Drew Smith got hurt early, Trevor May never got anywhere with the bullpen. Ottavino was still in and out when it came to the early part of the season, and Lugo wasn't the same for the first couple of months either. The Mets lost a lot of games early on because of their bullpen, because Buck did not trust anybody. Early on, at least the first month, Drew Smith was really good. Buck basically used him every single time he can because he didn't trust anybody else because nobody was pitching well. Other than Smith and Diaz for the first few months, everybody else was very questionable. And now the Mets got guys like Raley, like Ottavino bringing him back, like Robinson, like Diaz. You got 4 guys that you can throw in any inning if you really need to. Minus Diaz, you'll keep him for the night. But, you see what Diaz finally did the 2-inning save, which is huge because a lot of people think he couldn't do it. He did it. But Robinson, Raley, Ottavino, those guys, you can put them in the 6, you can put them in the 7, you can put them in the 8. They're all Swiss Army knives. That's something that is not easy to find in a bullpen. And I do think if this bullpen lives up to what they can be on paper, that's going to be a huge difference when it comes back to the rotation with Verlander, Scherzer, and Senga, because you got to watch those innings early on to save them for later in the year. The bullpen is going to be key, at least for the first month and a half of the season, when you want to keep Scherzer, Verlander, and Senga innings down so you got all their bullets going into the later part of the season. That's the big thing that Mets did not have last year. They stretched out their starters early on when they didn't trust their bullpen. That was without DeGrom. And then when Scherzer went down for 6 weeks, the Mets had to use their depth in pitching, which hurt their bullpen even more. Trevor Williams was a big part of our bullpen last year. When guys got hurt, he had to go into the starting rotation. So you hurt our bullpen. The bullpen is better, much better. And that is only going to help the rotation much more because you can trust the bullpen. You don't have to stretch out the starters early on in the season when you don't have to. When you got a 3-0 lead in the 6th inning, there's no need to push one of your big 3 to go the extra inning or throw some more pitches. Use your bullpen. That's something that I really think that a lot of people are not talking about. I know Ken talked about it. I talk about it. A couple other people talk about it as well. The bullpen is going to be a major factor for the New York Mets. It's going to be very, very interesting. But again, I like this lineup a lot more than a lot of people do. This same lineup scored 4.75 runs per game last year. That was without 35 to 40 home runs that they were expecting from DH, third base, and catcher that they did not get. Easy expectations they did not get. If they would have got 35 to 40 home runs, they were expecting easily, 10 from the catcher, 10 from the duo of the DH spot, each one of those guys, and a little bit more from Escobar when he struggled early on in the year. That's about 35 home runs. That's a difference of 1 and 2, maybe even a handful of games that could have turned the Mets' way. So we'll see. It's very interesting. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that Joey Lucchesi threw a bullpen today, so that's nice to see him. He is another X factor, could be a depth piece for the starting rotation. He might be one of those guys that might have a really good spring, and the Mets might throw him in the bullpen. Lucchesi has thrown in the bullpen before in his career, specifically with the Padres, and he's also a starting pitcher. He was a starter for the Mets prior to his Tommy John surgery. I do think Joey Lucchesi could be an X factor as well. But is his arm going to be strong enough coming off the Tommy John? We'll see. But I wouldn't be shocked if he starts in the minor leagues, and if he pitches well, he might be one of those guys, the first ones called up for either the bullpen or a spot start here and there. With the off days early on and stuff like that, he might get a start here and there, saving innings and saving starts for the other guys in that rotation. All right, so for the last 10 minutes or so, we're going to go over the comments. Ken, yes, exactly. Any improvement from catcher, DH, third base, exactly, isn't on the half run. That's what I was just talking about with games and stuff like that. We literally had nothing from DH and catcher. In total from DH and catcher prior to the trade deadline, we had 4 home runs. That lineup that was scoring 4.75 runs per game was not getting anything from that. If we got even a hint of offense from any of those positions early on in the year, that would have been well over 5 runs per game. And that's a huge difference when you're talking about Mets losing, especially early on. If you look at a lot of the low-scoring 1-run games the Mets lost early on that they easily could have won if the DH, third base, and catcher was competent, it would have been completely different, in my opinion. Yeah, and there was a lot of games last year where, if your DH would have got that one extra hit, when you have a guy that bats 200 and the other guy early on was batting under 200 in Dom and JD Davis, and you were expecting at least 10 home runs apiece from them, that's a lot of offense out of your lineup. Yet they still score 4.75 runs per game. That's almost impossible, and they did it. And there's no reason why they can't do it again. And I do expect more power from a couple of guys that, Vogelbach, even though I don't think he's a power hitter, he's bringing at least 16 to 17 home runs in this lineup. So we'll see what's going to happen. I'm very interested to see how the lineup's going to shake out. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was the rotation, about what Buck Showalter said. He said that he might split up Justin Verlander and Scherzer in the rotation, meaning that one of them is going to be the number 1 starter, the other one's going to be a number 3 starter, with, I'm assuming, Senga in the middle. I don't know why he's doing that. I didn't really get his explanation, but I don't really like that. I like to keep, back-to-back aces together, but I see why he's doing that. But I mean, if he's going to do that, he's talked about it, doesn't mean he's going to do it. I'm assuming he's going to talk to Verlander and Scherzer and see how they feel about it and then go from there. But I wouldn't split up the 2 aces at the top of the rotation. That's just my opinion. Well, I would love the Mets to win the division by 8 games, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that, no matter who wins the division. Yeah, great. Exactly. Navarez, am I expecting him to hit 22 home runs? No. But he is a guy that is more of a power bat than James McCann. And that's not saying something, but I see Navarez hit 10 home runs. That's something that we haven't gotten 2 years from James McCann. So if Navarez gives us, say, 9 home runs, and Vogelbach gives us 12 home runs, that's 22 home runs that the Mets didn't even get last year. That's a huge difference in this lineup. What did the Mets do well? Hit by pitches, walks. They put the bat on the ball. They got on base. If you add a couple of more, 20 to 25 more home runs in this lineup for a lineup that already gets on base very consistently, you're going to drive in more runs. It's just basic math. And that's something that I think people are looking over or overlooking when it comes to the Mets lineup, because they missed a lot of power last year that they were expecting from certain parts of the lineup that they didn't get at all. And that's a huge difference when it comes down to the Mets lineup. Somebody puts, hold on one second. I know I saw something. Damn it. Louis D, thank you for the super chat. 100%. Quintana, I'd even bring him up, which I should have, and that's a good job by Louis D. Thank you once again. Quintana could be the sleeper of the staff. Yeah, I agree. You know, he had under a 2. What he had under a 3 ERA last year. Quintana, very good for the Cardinals last year. Jose Quintana is going to be the innings eater in this rotation, 100%. But he is a guy, as you've seen last year, can be very dangerous as well. So I'm very curious to see what Jose Quintana is going to do. He's going to be the workhorse of this rotation. And you're right, Louis D. 100% a sleeper on this staff. And thank you for bringing him up. I totally forgot about that guy. Speaking of the rotation. Speaking of the rotation, Carlos Carrasco. Is he going to be the one taking that 5th spot? The Mets is going to give it to him? Or as I believe somebody else said, there we go, Brian C. talked about Tyler McGill. Are Buck Showalter and the Mets going to give David Peterson and McGill every opportunity to win that 5th job? Or is it Carlos Carrasco's job to lose? If Carrasco pitches decent in spring, is it his job? Is it that's his 5th spot? But what if McGill or Peterson pitch outstanding in the preseason, in spring training? What do you do? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, it's either gonna be McGill or Peterson down in the minor leagues. I think one of them are going to be in the bullpen or possibly in a rotation, depending on what Buck decides. But one of them, if they don't make the team, are going to go to the minor leagues. And that's unfortunate because I think a lot of us will probably like both of them on the team. But sometimes it's just not realistic. You need a little bit of starting pitching depth in the minors just in case of injuries and possible doubleheaders. Yeah, see, President. Yeah. I knew he had 2.93 ERA. I mean, how good is that? And that's the Mets' 4th starter. Do I expect that from him again? No. But if he gives me 3.5 ERA as a 4th starter, well, you just got your Taijuan Walker back, right? And he's a lefty at Citi Field in a big ballpark. Huge difference. And he's not a home run guy, which is huge. All right, guys. So, with that said, welcome back to baseball. Finally, through the winter months, through the winter meetings, through the off season, through all the free agency craziness, the Correa saga, over and over and over again. I mean, we literally spent 2 weeks on Carlos Correa during the holidays, and it was absolutely crazy. But after all that craziness, we finally can talk about what goes on in spring training day by day. There's going to be news every day. You're going to see Senga's first bullpen. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about whatever we need to talk about. Alvarez, Beatty, all that fun stuff that we're going to get into later on when it gets a little bit more into the spring training groove. We're going to talk about all of that. So with that said, welcome back to the baseball season. Welcome back to the channel. It is a new season upon us. If you missed the intro, I did the Mets hype video that they posted on Twitter and all their social media pages. If you didn't see it, check it out on their social media pages. If you just don't want to do that, go back to the beginning of my stream. I have it right at 6 o'clock, the intro hype video for the New York Mets. So check that out. I am working on my new intro for the 2023 season. As you've seen for the 2022 season, I had my little intro before I popped up onto the screen. I'm working on it now. I'm going to be going to Citi Field to take some shots, a little bit of video with some sound and all that stuff. So it's going to be pretty cool with the intro. So I am ready for the 2023 season. One more thing, guys. Have higher expectations for this New York Mets team. The owner and the players do. You have to as well. Louis D, let's go Rangers, baby. We got the Canucks. Let's go. All right, guys. Everybody, have a great night. Baseball season is upon us. Pitchers and catchers at Port St. Lucie have reported a couple of days until the rest of the position players report. We are in the big part of spring training. We are in it. We're ready. We're hyped. We're ready. We're excited. Let's go. Everybody have a great night. As always, let's go Mets. See you next time, guys. Have a good night.
the Mets here. For all your Mets here, let's